bitch. Let's go.
He's Derek.
I also was a young hippie. I also was dating in the 1970s.
She's Romaine.
Bitch, you should have put that tree in the attic a long time ago, but you are being lazy, and now I'm going to hold you accountable.
This is Derek and Romaine.
2.0, bitches. Hello, Derek.
Hello, Romaine. So glad to have you all with us for another exciting show here. I think I say all the time that our shows are exciting,
And
but
then
this
what
time
if they're
I
not?
mean it.
Oh, you do mean it today? Okay.
Well,
Good.
fake
Don't
it
want
till you
it-
make it.
Don't
How
want
am
it
I
to be
supposed
not exciting or anything. Ooh.
How am I supposed to know what's going to happen?
I don't
Although
know.
quite a bit of our show is already in the can, even as we're speaking now. Travis Stancil is going to be with us to talk about the new Amazon Prime series, Pageant Queens, our story behind the crown. And so we're going to talk to him about that and the world of drag and dance.
And dance. Yeah, he does
Well,
talk
you
a lot
know-
about dance.
My great aunt Caroline,
Yeah.
before people were out, gay people,
Yeah.
she described a man as in the dance.
That was a
That
gay
was
man
code for-
in the dance.
He is a homosexual. I guess I assume he was with like the American Ballet Theater or something. But anyway, she was like, "Oh, why isn't he married? He's in the dance."
In the dance.
And I've always liked that expression for a gay person. Like it's a great excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't he have a wife? He's in the dance. Okay,
In
well,
the dance.
you know, then I guess he's just
But it's
too busy.
interesting that would be what you'd say, because most of the time people who are in the dance were dancing with somebody of the opposite sex.
Well, yes, there was quite a bit of that.
Not a lot of same sex in the dancing actually happening, which is most unfortunate. I always remember the first few times that I saw gay men dancing together, like in a formal way, whether it was like country dancing or formal dancing or whatever. And I always thought it was so romantic. Much
Really?
more
Because-
romantic than straight people dancing.
I had the opposite reaction.
Really?
Well, you know, so during the LA riots, I don't know why this keeps coming up.
I don't know.
During the LA riots, we were bored. A heartless lot. Anyway, so we went to Palm Springs for the weekend because there was a curfew on. We couldn't go to West Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided just to go to Palm Springs. And we like stayed in some gay guest. I don't even remember where we stayed.
Okay.
We drove there for the night and stayed over. We'd never been to Palm Springs before, and we didn't know where to go or what to do. And we went to the first place that had like a gay pride flag or a triangle in it. And we were hanging out in the like lobby bar, and everyone there was 100. And the bartender was like, "You know what? You'll probably find more of what you're looking for down the road at CC Construction."
Oh. Well, that was at least
And,
nice
like,
of them.
We didn't even ask. We were just like there. But literally, I'm telling you with this story, because this was a long time ago, obviously, it was the LA riots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe anybody who was in that bar is still alive today. That's how old everyone
damn.
was. Like, it was 30-something years ago.
Right.
Everyone there is dead now. Like, everybody. I mean, probably even the bartender. If the bartender's alive, he is at a nursing home. Like, and he was the youngest of the lot, and he was probably 60. Anyway.
Gotcha.
So I don't remember where that was. It was a long time ago. But we went to CC Construction, which is in Cathedral City. And I don't even know if it's still there. Maybe it is. But we went there, and it was me and my crazy friend Michael that I went to high school with, R.I.P. And we lived together in Pasadena, and we were 3 blocks away from the freeway. So we're like, we got to risk it in the curfew. Because even though Pasadena was included in the curfew.
Right.
And it's like, well, we just got to hope that we can make it the 3 blocks of the freeway. Because once you were on the freeway, the local curfew didn't apply. But you had to get to the freeway to get out of town. So we broke the law to get on the freeway.
Of course you did,
3 blocks
you
from our...
law-breaking fool, you.
Well, we were in this apartment on South Venado behind like a carpet store across the street from Denny's. So people in Pasadena know exactly where we were. Anyway,
Right.
So we zipped out of the freeway, and then we took it out of Palm Springs. And so we go to CC Construction. The bartender was very helpful in giving us directions. And we waved goodbye to the elderly men who were there at the hotel bar. And we went to see construction. When we walked in, it was like a huge warehouse. It had an outdoor space where people were smoking. But they had different rooms with different DJs playing different music. So they had like a big dance floor that was playing, I'm sure, techno, because that was time period.
Yeah.
But then they also had a country western room.
Okay, I love that.
Where they were doing
I've always loved gay bars that have multi-rooms, and one of them is a
Right.
country western room.
So they had a country western room where they were doing cowboy dancing. And I had never seen two men, two-stepping together or whatever.
Right.
I had never seen that before.
Mm,
And when I saw it, you know what a homophobe I am.
I do.
I screamed with laughter. I thought it was hilarious.
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 God, you
like
would
Michael
think
had to
that.
drag me out of there because people were giving me looks. Like they did not like
Why
that
are
I was
you
just
so horrible?
laughing. I couldn't help myself. It just struck me as very funny the first time I saw it.
Okay.
Anyway, I made out with a girl at that bar.
Of
It was
course
a
you
crazy
did.
weekend.
What is wrong with you? You are so weird.
That was sort of the peak of my homophobia. I went to a gay bar, I laughed at gay guys dancing together, and I made out with a girl.
That's pretty
a crazy
homophobic,
time.
sir. I mean, legit.
But in this case, there were two women who were at the bar,
Yeah.
and I don't know why they were there. I can't remember what their story was, but they were good. It was like me and Michael. They were like best friends, and then they were hanging out at the bar together. And Michael was bisexual, and he was into the friend,
Right.
and she was not into him. It was like she wanted to go to a gay bar so they could just relax, like drink and smoke and not be hit on, right?
Mhm.
And so then here's this bisexual guy who is like hitting on her. So she was not excited about that. Meanwhile, her friend was one of these classic women who were like, there are all these men around and I know I can't have them, but I want to, touch and make out with all of them.
Jesus. Yes.
There are straight women who like, they get into a gay bar. They're like, I can't wait to get handsy here. And so that was her friend. And her friend was like, maybe if we make out, it will encourage like my friend to make out with your friend. Basically, this is what she was like, we should make out with each other. It'll help. And Michael was like, this is a great idea. So I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Oh, Lord.
So I made out with this girl who was super into making out with a gay guy at the gay bar. And
were you super into making out with her?
No, it was fine. I made out with girls before in high school and whatever. Like, it was fine.
Right.
And I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. And she knew, like, this is the thing. Like, I don't mind flirting. I prefer to flirt if I know it's not going anywhere.
That
it's
sounds
a lot more
like
fun.
you. I can see that.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's harmless and it's fun and you feel good and they feel good. And then, like, no harm, no foul. Everybody's going to go their own way. Nobody's going to be sad later. Everyone's going to be happy. And flirting is fun. It feels good. And anyway, so it was fun to be like flirty with a girl or whatever,
Right.
even though both of us knew like it wasn't going anywhere. But yeah, that was the last time like I made out with a girl at a bar. It was fun. It was fine.
I think the last time I made out with a boy was ADD Jeff. And I think it was at a gay bar. Well, it wasn't at a gay bar. It was at that
When we were in
tiki
San
bar in
Francisco?
San Francisco all those
Yeah.
years ago. I think that was the last time I made out with a boy. I feel like that was the last time. I have no need to make out with boys at this stage of my life.
No.
I mean, I guess I would if the right guy came around.
No.
And it was a hot enough guy worth making out with. Maybe. I just don't think it. I don't think it would do it for me. You know, I don't like making out with boys. All that facial hair. So many men have facial hair or like scruff, and I just hate the way it feels. I don't
That's
like
not
it.
for you.
It is not for me. It is not for me at all. Like if I was a straight lady and my husband had like a beard or like a mustache or a goatee, I would hate it. I would hate it so much because I just don't like the way it feels on my face.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Well, if I were making out with a woman, it would definitely be a beard situation.
Yeah.
Let me ring the bell on that.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
here, would you like me to ring mine too? Because I have one now too. I finally found my bell.
did you?
I did. I
I
have
can
that
hear
one,
the bells.
and then I have my shame bell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have
Oh,
a-
look at you upping the ante here.
Well, I try where I can. We haven't used the bells in a while, so it's kind of nice to just have them out and about in the ye old studio.
I will say, now that I'm in the new place,
Yeah.
because I'm in kind of an apartment situation and there's a person living downstairs,
You're less
even though I
inclined to
don't
use
think
the
that they
ding.
can hear the bell,
They
I'm
can't
just
hear
like,
that bell, girl.
I
First of
can't-
all, let me talk to you about the science of sound, Derek.
Oh, no.
The bell has a very high pitch sound,
Same
which
girl.
means the audio waves are very tightly together. They're super close.
Tightly to.
Yeah, they're like they're very. It's like versus like a low bass wave, which those waves are like more spread out. They're not as close together, right? So those waves, low bass waves, travel through objects at a much better rate and ability than something that has the tiny waves that are all close together. So your higher pitched sounds are less likely to travel through the walls to your neighbors than if you were playing low bass and listening to music. The low bass, like think about when a car drives by, right? And you hear the from the car, but you don't hear any of the other music. You just hear the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because the bass travels through objects at a better rate than high-pitched sounds.
Then how come when my screeching laugh happens, people can hear it from 10 miles away?
Well, because you're very fucking loud. It has more to do with how loud you are than the pitch.
Okay.
But these little bells are not that loud.
Okay. All right. Well, I will not be inhibited about the bells in the
No.
future, I guess.
No, you
We
should
get back
not
from
be
our adventure.
inhibited. Use your bell at will.
Thank you, girl.
Here, I just
well,
thought you didn't like it anymore.
No.
Like you've
I
moved
just
on.
well, first of all, it's not like right next to me. Like it's a little far away, and so I was just like, oh yeah, I got to hit it. But also for a while here, I did have the Roadcaster, which has like the audio things in it, so I could play some
Right.
of those, so I didn't have to rely on the bell.
Mm.
But I have the Roadcasters turned off right now, so
I see.
someday we'll bring it back,
Okay.
so I can go back to playing That's Racist and whatever else.
Right. I have all of those. But
I
I don't
know,
play
but you
them
don't
very
play
often.
them.
You're right. It's true. I don't. I should
Okay.
play them
Anyway.
more. I'm sorry.
Well, let's talk trends.
Okay.
Because I would like to get your opinion about a couple of trends. One is a TikTok trend,
Okay.
which I think is,
Stupid. Yes.
well, I think there's a lot of not good stuff happening on TikTok. But anyway, so here is one of the hot trends that's happening on TikTok. And you're a parent, so
Yeah.
I'm curious about your
Okay.
feelings about this. So one of the trends on TikTok is when parents have a cranky, crying toddler,
Yes.
they start calling out for Jessica.
Who the hell is Jessica?
Jessica is a non-existent person.
Okay. Jessica. I hate that name,
I know. And
Okay.
remember, Jessica is a new Karen
Right. Right. Okay.
for the younger people. But apparently these parents are using Jessica, like calling out to Jessica, as a distraction. And it causes their toddlers to stop crying and melting down
Oh, interesting.
because it refocuses them. It's redirection.
Okay.
Now, and then they go looking for Jessica, and the toddler will sometimes help in the search for Jessica. Now, I think on the one hand, the redirection is probably smart because, sometimes a toddler is just cranky because they're tired or hungry, whatever it is, but like they just are going to be cranky until they have exhausted themselves.
Right.
Like there is not a ready end point. Like even if they're tired, you can try to get them to take a nap and they'll be like, no, I'm not tired.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
they're still cranky, right? Or even if they're hungry, you try to get them to eat, but they're so cranky. They're like, no, and they're pushing the food away. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. I remember these days.
Right. So in some ways, I think that the concept of redirection for a toddler is smart because their brain moves away from whatever the thing is. It refocuses them. And then you can get them to focus on something else. And then they will forget, because as you know, they're in that stage where they don't remember anything from 5 minutes ago, like us finishing doing the show. Like whatever they were upset about 10 minutes ago, they don't remember anymore. Like it never happened. So you just have to redirect them, and then their brain will dump whatever that memory was, and it's gone.
Yeah. Okay. I can see how that works.
So I think so I don't hate the redirection thing, but what bothers me is the gaslighting part of it, of making up a fictitious person and then sending them on a wild goose chase. So what are your thoughts on toddler redirection in the direction of fictitious Jessica?
I mean, parents redirect children all the time in different ways. Some of them are healthy, some of them are not. The thing I worry about with this Jessica situation is you are this fictional person that doesn't exist, and now they think this fictional person does exist, and then there's going to come a point where they just think you're fucking crazy. Or they're going to think this fictional person does exist, and then they're going to be like talking to people about Jessica, and then these other people are going to be like, who the fuck are you talking about? Your mom doesn't have a friend named Jessica. What are you talking? Like, then they're going to think your kid is crazy and has imaginary friends.
Right.
So I worry that it will send your child down an imaginary friend road that then could become a nightmare in a different kind of way as a parent. So I'm inclined to think it's fine, but tread carefully here. I don't want you to end up down a path that is that'll be worse down the road.
Now, did you or Pie Pants have an imaginary friend?
I do not recall ever having an imaginary friend growing up. Now, Romy, I definitely think she didn't have like one imaginary friend, like, oh, this is my imaginary friend, George, or whatever. And then she would only talk to George or whatever. But she definitely did talk to people like they were imaginary friends in the space when she would be playing. Because she's an only child. So she had to really imagine a lot of things when she would play by herself. And so she did a lot of talking to imaginary people. As a child, as a really young child.
Right.
And then eventually that, all kind of faded out, went away. I also thought when she was really, really, really little that she was talking to ghosts.
I do not believe that I had any imaginary friends, although, my mom listens to the show every day.
Right.
And I'll tell stories about my childhood and everything. And I'm just waiting for the day where my mom is like, oh, yeah, so Sean Grinnell was not a real person, and we just pretended that he was real, but actually he was an imaginary friend, and you keep telling this story about him, and he was never real. Like, I keep waiting for that to happen. Now, I use Sean Grinnell as an example, and you're like, who the hell is that? But he was a kid that went to, when we lived in Sebastopol in Northern California, he was at our elementary school there, and then we moved to Santa Rosa, which is, a town away, like a 20-minute town away. And we moved to Rincon Valley. And so Santa Rosa had multiple middle schools. So it wasn't like we moved from the only middle school in one town to the only middle school in another town. Like we moved to another town 20 minutes away that had, other middle schools. And Sean Grinnell, after we were there for like a year later, his family moved there. And Sean was like in my class, I think, and had a younger sister who I think was in my sister's class. I feel like we hung around with them quite a bit. Sean Grinnell played soccer with me. And so it wasn't like he wasn't the kid that I hung around with the most. Mm-hmm. It was definitely a situational thing of like, we're doing a lot of the same activities, so we're always around each other. I feel like he was a Boy Scout, and it was why I almost became a Boy Scout and then didn't, because like I couldn't sign up that day or whatever, a Cub Scout, and then like I missed the window, and then I didn't become a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout. But I feel like Sean Grinnell might have been in the Scouts. So we were like bouncing around, but we were not like best friends or anything.
Right.
But I only remember him with the most of this period other than, Brian Hilton, who was like my best friend in elementary school, who then, of course, also was gay. And now in retrospect, I'm like, were we boyfriends in the second grade? You know what I mean? Because I did not have a lot of boyfriends.
Right.
And then I was like, and then we both turned out to be gay. And like, we hung out together all the time. I was like, were we like little boyfriends? But anyway.
Were we boyfriends and didn't even know it?
But like, before you know what gay is or being gay or whatever, like, clearly we felt like safe hanging around with each other.
Right.
So, but Sean Grinnell, I don't think was gay. I think he was straight. But anyway, so he was at one school and then he was at another school, and that's unusual. That's an unusual plot point, even for like a TV show.
Right.
Of like, why did everybody move from Milwaukee to California, including everybody who worked at the Pizza Bowl? Okay. Laverne and Shirley, we get it. This would be an unusual circumstance. But if my mother did come to me now and said Sean Grinnell was an imaginary friend and he never existed, I would be like, oh, okay, that tracks, because why on earth would he have been at two different schools in two different towns? But I think all of my friends were real, because I was always around I was never in a situation where I would have needed an imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there were always people around, and I was always trying to get away. Like I wanted to be away from people, not with people. So the idea that I would invent a person to be around me, like, ugh, this is like my nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see for an only child, you know, you could have that.
Oh,
Although
yeah, totally.
I think the imaginary friend is less now than it used to be. I think the imaginary friend came from like kids whose parents just completely ignored them.
Well, yeah, but also kids who didn't have other things to occupy their brain space, right? Like nowadays kids have an iPad, they have a television, they have so many things that are constantly stimulating them that once upon a time they didn't have those, so you had to use your brain to be your stimuli, and if you didn't have anyone to talk to or anyone to hang out with, you just made shit up. It was a very different time then than it is now. I don't think kids now have to use their brains to make up imaginary people, because they can just watch a TV show.
Yeah, your imaginary people are waiting for you on television.
Right, exactly. Weird and creepy.
But the thing about the Jessica trend that bothers me is when I watched Mary Poppins, and I was like, Mary Poppins is a gaslighter.
Well, yeah.
And so I was
she
like,
sure is.
Why do we think she's this great nanny? She is gaslighting these kids.
I don't think that Mary Poppins was all that grand. I actually think she was kind of horrible.
Yeah, it was kind of a dangerous thing to put your kids in the hands of Mary Poppins.
A little bit.
But yeah, Mary Poppins was a little problematic.
Mm-hmm.
You're hanging around with sketchy chimney sweeps,
falling
into paintings. I don't know. And then, lying to your parents. I don't know. Sketchy.
Yeah, she's a little sketch.
Yeah, a little problem.
And a little mean, too, I think.
Well, she was a little holier than thou.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also, you have these magic powers. Why are you hanging around with kids all day?
Right.
Why don't
if
you
I
go
had
be magical
powers,
somewhere?
Man, you don't even want to know what I do with my magic powers.
Well, I think we do.
I'm a little sad I
whore.
don't have magic powers. I wish I did.
Yeah, you'd be a whore.
Yeah, I would do it.
Slutty?
I don't know that I'd be a whore, but I'd be doing a lot of fun things with my magical powers if I had magical powers.
You'd be slutty.
Maybe. That's a strong possibility.
You'd be rich and slutty.
I definitely would be rich if I had magical powers. I would use my magical powers to make me very wealthy, because I feel like if you're wealthy, you don't have to stress about a lot of other dumb shit, and then you can really have a good time and do a lot of fun stuff. Wealth allows you a lot of personal freedoms that I would be all about. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So an ixnay on the imaginary friends, eh? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here is the other trend that I wanted to talk about, and that is rib remodeling.
Rib remodeling?
Yeah.
What does that even mean? Are we remodeling our ribs?
So it is a body contouring procedure.
Okay.
To narrow your waistline by 2 to 7 inches without removing bone.
Okay. How do they do that exactly? I'm so confused.
So they use an ultrasonic tool
Okay.
to make small fractures in the lower ribs to reposition them inward.
Okay.
And it creates permanent results of narrowing the waist. And then you
So-
also have to wear a compression garment to like sort of like keep it in.
Is
So
this kind of
basically-
what women do naturally when they wear corsets?
Right.
Okay.
So like with a corset, the pressure of the corset causes the bones eventually to reform into the corset shape.
Okay.
And you see when people do like very severe corset training, the people who wear corsets for whatever it is, 24 hours a day or whatever, to corset train their body into like a classic hourglass shape, it just is compressing their organs into their body deeper and deeper and deeper.
Okay.
And then when the corset comes off after time, your body is just shaped like that. And people can find the body shape that comes from that kind of corset training to be severe and disturbing.
Right.
And I do wonder about how, in this Victorian era where these women were wearing these tight corsets with these tiny, tiny waists, like why they like, the women would faint all the time. Well, I don't know why.
I wonder why.
Because like their lungs couldn't actually fill the capacity and their organs were
They couldn't
being crushed.
breathe. Yeah. I wonder why they're fainting and passing out. I wonder.
Yeah. So I don't know how good that is. But anyway, a lot of people, want to basically take a shortcut in the sort of corset training, but get that kind of a silhouette.
Right.
And also I imagine that some people, like their rib cage may be more pronounced. Like they may be, as a lady, they might want a more feminine rib cage to them. If they have a large rib cage, even if they are, have a smaller waist, if their rib cage is very big, like if they have if you're talking about proportions, right? They don't have large breasts, but they have a, prominent rib cage and then a tiny waist. They might feel sort of out of proportion. And maybe if they had a narrower rib cage, they would feel a little more of a lady proportion of some kind. I don't know what goes
Derek, I have
through
looked at a
people's
lot of ladies in my life, and I've
Yeah.
never looked at a lady and thought, she's got a really large rib cage. She should slim that down. I don't think I've ever looked at a woman and thought that. Not once in all of my many, many, many years of objectifying women. Not once have I thought, "Oh, that
Wow.
girl's got a really large rib cage."
Look at the rib cage on that heifer.
Oh man, her rib cage is out of control. No, that is so rare. And again, I'm a woman of a certain size, and I've never thought to myself, "Girl, your rib cage is too big. You really should slim that down." Like I might say, "Girl, your ass is fat," or "Girl, you could stand to lose some pounds." But I've never thought, "Oh man, I just wish I had a smaller rib cage."
To me,
It doesn't make any sense to me.
this is all part of this psychotic looks maxing thing.
Yeah.
Where these people are just like, I will do whatever aesthetic or surgical thing I can to get whatever the classic Greek beauty proportions to my body that my body doesn't naturally have. And the thing is that, this is not new because in the late 1930s, the makeup artist Max Factor, he was a big believer in the classic beauty model.
Mm-hmm.
And he created a calibrator that women would put their faces into.
Right, I remember
And
that.
then basically the Greek beauty thing is your face is in proportions of 2/3 and 1/3. Like the space between the top of your nose to your chin should be 2/3 of your face, and then your forehead is 1/3 of your face. And then there was like within that another like 2/3, 1/3 like section of how your face should be shaped.
Right.
And so they would put the women's faces into the calibrator, and where it was off from the calibrator, they would fix it with like hair and makeup. And make their eyebrows bigger or smaller, or make their lips bigger or smaller, or, shade their eyes in such a way or whatever, or have bangs or pull their hair up or whatever it was to like get closer to the shape. But when you look at actresses in the 1940s in movies, like movie picture stills of them, whatever, they all look the same. Like all the young actresses all look exactly the same. Because they all went to Max Factor and he did everybody's makeup and everyone looked identical because they all were in this 2/3 beauty structure thing.
Right.
And eventually people were like, ugh, we got to get out of this because everyone looks identical. It's too creepy.
It is creepy.
And I feel this way about the, with the looks maxing thing, is everyone's trying to get into some kind of classic beauty structure. But in the end, everyone's just going to look the same. And then people are going to reject the sameness because this always happens.
I can see that happening.
But, this is nothing new. And again, when in the corset era where women were like, I have to have a 12-inch waist. Ugh. And it's like, how can you even have a spine and have a 12-inch waist?
Well, that was the standard of beauty then.
And it was, but it got to a crazy place.
Yes, it did.
And then women were like, I got to throw this corset away. And you see in the early 20th century, this sort of like shapeless, flat-chested, straight down body shape that was the hot shape. And it was a reaction to the overdone hourglass, with a bustle, like big ass, big boobs, big shoulder, tiny, tiny waist look. I was like, we got to throw this away. Mm-hmm. And also, I have to imagine it was incredibly uncomfortable for women.
Yeah, I imagine it was. But women have been wearing incredibly uncomfortable shit all the time. Even now. Now they wear their Skims and their fucking whatever. They suck all their fat into those crazy, fucking clothes that they wear now. It's not any different. It's the same shit, just a different name for the product. Ugh.
Well, you know who else squeezes themselves into corsets? Gay men.
Doing drag.
Or drag queens.
That's true. That's true, Derek. They sure do. Are we going to hear about some?
I believe we are, from Travis Stancil, the creator of the new Amazon Prime series, Pageant Queens. He's coming up next here on Derek and Romaine.
More Derek and Romaine next.
Derek here, along with Romaine, and joining us now, it is Travis Stancil. He is the creator of the new series on Amazon Prime, Pageant Queens, Our Story Behind the Crown. It debuted on Amazon Prime on April 20th, and the first 10 episodes are available now to watch on Amazon Prime. You can also follow the series on Instagram. It is Pageant Queens Series on Instagram. And Travis, you can find him online at travisstancil.com. Stancil is how you spell his last name. And he's also on Facebook, Travis.Stancil on Facebook. But now he's here on Derek and Romaine. Travis, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
It's great to have you with us. And for a lot of TV viewers, they are very familiar with RuPaul's Drag Race, obviously.
Yeah.
But this is a different televised look at the drag experience, right?
Yes.
Now, in what way is it different?
Yeah. So RuPaul, and kudos to everything that she's created and the milestone of what that show is and what it's done for the art form. And today, I would say that RuPaul is really highlighting the mainstream queens and the up and coming queens of today, where, some of their oldest queens, don't even cross, 30 years old, where in this show, pageants are the root and the foundation of where drag originated from. Since the beginning, all of them were doing these pageants. And where RuPaul is more of this like competition style show and not your traditional style pageant, I really wanted to create a TV show that really highlighted the pageant element of drag and utilizing, the legends and icons from the drag pageantry industry. So that's where we created the competition Queen of Drag, where the 10 of the most legendary queens who defined the art of drag and pageantry are going to be living in a house together, preparing all summer long to compete for the biggest title of their career, the Queen of Drag. So that's kind of where the difference is we really focus a lot more on the pageantry side of drag, where RuPaul really focused on more of the artistry side of drag.
Sure. So Derek and I have been judges of a pageant.
Okay.
In Asbury Park. And let me tell you, we learned a thing or two about the drag pageant world in being judges, and that is that it is very cutthroat. There are definitely favorites in the pageant world and people who are not favorites. And it is quite different, I think, that, as you said, from something like Drag Race, whereas these girls, they're honing a talent, they're honing a look. There's a lot that goes into the pageant world, and I think it might be a little surprising for some viewers if they're going in expecting RuPaul's Drag Race, because that's not what they're going to get.
This is not what this is at all. No. Pageantry, you got to really look at like real girl pageants, but then just put it on steroids and enhance it by like 1,000.
Right.
And that's what you get with drag, because like the talent that these people do and the gowns that they do, like they really, have defined the mainstream level of entertainment, with their makeup trends and their hair and their gowns. It's, I hear designers from like the pageant world that from like Miss USA or Miss America, like they get their inspiration from like watching like Miss Continental or Miss Gay America and looking at what drag queens do for gowns to bring over into real girl pageantry. So you're gonna get a lot of that. It's the other cool element with this show, which makes it even more interesting, standard pageantry gives you like their handbook, their rules, like we judge like this is our categories, and this is what you have to do. But in this show, we put 10 of them in a house and they had to vote on it. So they had to vote on like what was going to be the theme for the Beyond the Red Carpet category, which is kind of like how we reinvented like an evening gown rather than just doing a traditional gown. We made it something like very avant-garde, high fashion. So we called the category Bring It to the Runway. So they had to vote on what that theme was going to be. They had to vote on who the judges were and vote on the scoring system of who were going to be judging them. And I think that was the hardest part was, who are these individuals from the community that we are going to pick that are going to judge and ultimately determine which one of us goes home with $50,000.
Yeah, because I'm sure some of them have favorite judges.
Yeah. The most interesting factor of this show that I loved watching as a producer, when they would be filming is, all of them come from different walks of life. You had several of them that, their biggest title they won was Miss Gay US of A. You had a couple of them that have won Miss Continental. We had Tatiana Vaucher, who was your Miss Gay America, which is like the prim of the prop of pageantry in the drag world. And so having them decide how this was going to be judged, because all pageants score differently. Like some do a ranking system, some do a point system, some drop high and low. And that really weighed into the strategy when you're competing against, 10 other people who are the best at what they do. So it really was interesting watching how they would like create alliances in the house. So we can get this to be the themed category, or to where we can get these people to be the judges, or to where we can get this to be the scoring system. It was really cool how all that played out.
And do you think they made the right choices?
I do. I can say I saw it coming. I don't want to like give off too much of the show, but
right.
I saw it leaning the way it was going to go. I think I was most surprised at the lip sync songs, which is, I guess, our only element of RuPaul that you can say we had in our show. Is we made it like once you got to top 4, where traditional pageantry would do like a question and answer to make it more exciting for TV, because that's not really anything people would want to watch or tune into. We made it like a lip sync battle. So once you make the top 4, the scores were completely wiped out. and the winner was solely decided by who won the lip sync battle. So watching how they decided on the songs, and that was probably what I was most intrigued by, or like, interesting choice. Because it really, to me, it really set that I was like, if these individuals get into the top four, with these being the songs that decide who goes home with $50,000, I felt it was really weighted for one group.
Now, Travis, you have your own experience with the pageant world, don't you?
long time ago. Yeah, I did male pageantry. That's how I discovered the world of drag, and fell in love with it and loved what they do. But I never did drag myself. So I competed. I won Mr. Entertainer of the Year, and the biggest male title there is that you could ever win, which was Mr. Continental.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as male pageantry. I thought it was just for the ladies.
No, but you should. That's really the show that the market's missing. That's what needs to be made, is a show about men that do pageants. they're worse than the drag queens.
I don't find that surprising at all. Actually.
Oh my God. It's yeah, go look up like videos online of like Mr. Continental and like watch what they do. And it's like literally a triathlon of the best male ever, because it's not even just a beauty pageant, but like the talent that you see these men do. I mean, I'm a world-class ballroom dancer. That was my background. So that's what really got me the title of Mr. Continental. But other people would be like phenomenal Broadway singers or opera singers or hip hop dancers. I mean, there was this guy, he won, I forget what year, Sir Valentino, like he brought on a hip hop production that was just mind-blowing. And it was like literally like watching like Missy Elliott on stage without Missy Elliott, and just watching all her dancers. It was crazy.
And I think this is something that gets, for people who are not familiar with the drag pageant world, is that if people are used to, just seeing drag at a local bar, or, seeing Drag Race on television, they can, the productions, generally speaking, it's one queen, maybe two queens doing something together, but it's a smaller production. But in the pageant world, especially at sort of the elite level, the production that is put together around these queens is really extraordinary and intense, and can be, depending on the queen, it can be a Broadway caliber performance, and costume, and just the production design of it and everything.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that we did within our pageant. It really definitely put a dent in my bank account. I definitely underestimated them for sure. But we didn't want this to be a money pageant on whoever spent the most money or had the most dancers, typically, get scored higher in talent. So I wanted this to solely be based off their level of talent. So we just paid for anything they wanted. We were like, whatever you want, we're going to provide you with your own dancers, your own choreographers.
Nice.
We're going to fly them all in. It was not nice. It was very expensive.
Well, I'm sure it was.
I mean, we had one queen that literally had like 3 different choreographers, 3 different group of dancers. I think she had like over 30 dancers in her entire production. She like came from the ceiling. One of them, like what you said, Jeff, was that they did she did a Broadway number that quite literally looked like Broadway.
Wow.
It literally looked like it came off a Broadway stage.
So why not just say, here's your budget. Everyone gets the same budget. This is what you have to work with.
Yeah.
Hindsight, I know.
You live and learn. But where I look back at it and where I don't regret it is drag pageantry. They're the most resourceful humans on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And, from everything that they've just been deprived so much as artists. Like, they're not given the recognition that they deserve, and showcasing this, art form its own. Like, drag pageantry is an art form of its own. And so to allow them to have this like lifetime opportunity to just be like, you can do whatever you want, like whatever you want, like we're going to make it happen. It spoke volume to them, and it spoke volume on the stage. And I'm excited for when viewers like watch it, they're going to be like, oh my God, like, you're literally going to see it in real time, like the
Wow.
level of these productions. And even one of the episodes, they go and tour the theater. And what also surprised me as a producer is, just watching them just they sit on the floor of the theater, and just how they took it all in, and just how emotional they got, because as drag entertainers, like, they were never given like stages like that. Like, they're not used to performing on, Broadway level stages. Like,
Right.
they're used to, the basement of a club with a little stage.
Oh, we've
And
all
that's
been
where they
on one
built
of
their careers
those.
on. Yeah, one too many times.
Now, for you, you're an experienced dancer and choreographer. So, in the production of this show, did you find your critical eye wandering to the other dancers in choreography? And sort of, did it make you want to jump in, or did you try
Yeah.
to just like hold back and let the process roll out?
I've learned to hold back and let the process play out. I hired the best choreographers in drag pageantry ever to be a part of this, for the queens to be able to utilize them. And then my counterpartner to the show, Michael Silas, was my artistic director for the entire project, for the pageant, for the filming of the TV show. And watching him create was such a privilege in its own. And I've learned in building a business and running a company, of course, there's times where I'm like, oh, I would have done this, or I would have done that, or, you really want to intersect. But, I find it more rewarding and beneficial, like, when you create platforms for other artists and you allow them to, display their art. And I think that's the most, biggest reward that could ever be given back to me, is like, I create canvases for other choreographers and dancers or directors, and allow them to just come in and have the freedom to create their best. And I've learned you get their best when you allow them that freedom. If you're micromanaging and tweaking this and tweaking that, you don't get their best.
Right.
Now, you grew up in the world of dance because your father is a dancer.
Yes.
And you also did like youth dance competitions, right?
Yeah, I won a lot too. I look back at my childhood footage and I'm just like, oh my God, like, God bless my parents, because if you would have looked at it, you would have thought the trajectory of my career would have been a Chippendale stripper.
There's still time.
I know, right? I gotta, yeah. But yeah, I just loved performing and competing, and I was kind of like the rebel of the ballroom. Ballroom is very structured. It's very like mannerable. It's like all foundation, and like, I just came in like a rock star, and like, I would like literally like get like glitter pants made that like ripped off for no reason. I would literally rip off like glitter black pants to reveal other black pants. But I just, like, when I saw the strippers do it, or like the entertainers you see on like TV that inspired me, I was like, that's what I want to do. And I would like rip my shirt open because I had like abs as a kid, but like, I was bird chested and weighed like 100 pounds. So like, who didn't have abs at that point? And just thought I was like the cat's meow. But yeah, I love that my father and my mother, they both were just so supportive of my performing arts career. Like, my dad would drive me up like an hour away from my hometown, and we would dance at this ballroom, and it just allowed me to really just imagine and like see something bigger and like the possibilities. And then getting into the competitive world and like traveling the country and competing and just seeing like the level of dance and performance that was out there, it was definitely life changing and changed the trajectory of my career for sure.
But has your own experience like ruined your ability to just enjoy a show like Dancing with the Stars
Yes,
for what it is?
100%. I watch Dancing with the Stars, and I'm like, no, no. Or I'll be like, that's not even a tango song. Like, what do you do? Like, but I also have to understand like the vast majority of the audience watching this show has no idea of that, and they enjoy it. And Dancing with the Stars has evolved so much. Back in the day, like in its early seasons, they were so strictly ballroom. Like, if there could be no lifts, it had to be this timing, it had to be this frame. Now they're more evolved and it's more commercialized, which I think is great because it opens it up to a broader audience to learn about this art form. But it definitely, there's a drastic difference between watching like a ballroom dancer versus like a commercial style dancer on that show. And you see that with Pasha and Daniela. They're on that show, and
Yeah.
they won Blackpool which is like the hardest competition there is to win in ballroom, and you watch them dance alongside everybody else, and it's a night and day difference.
I'm sure it is. I love watching that show, but I don't know anything about any of the dances. And so I'm watching it, and even I'm like, is that actually whatever that dance is supposed to be? I don't even know. But it's fun to watch.
Again, they're great. They do what TV is needing. It's giving you what TV is supposed to give you. They do their theme nights, like they did Wicked Night, and obviously, like some of these songs are not meant for the dance that they're supposed to do, but they make it work and they make it entertaining. And I think that's the key, is like making it entertaining.
Yeah. Which I mean, it is, and it's a lot of fun, and they bring in all kinds of special stuff to make it work. And all I know is I couldn't do it. I watched them, and I think there's no way I would be the first one voted out. Because I'm not a good dancer. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have like 5 left feet, not even just 2. And people have tried to teach me how to dance, and they all fail, and they all end up with sore toes. So it's not a show for me, is what I'm saying.
But I would imagine, like, not all of these drag queens can dance either. So I'm sure there's a certain amount of like dancing around them.
No, yeah, you put the production around them, and but I mean, again, they're experts at their craft. Like the ones that know they can't dance, they know it.
Yeah,
and really and truly, like that was the other thing. Like these were queens that were directing the directors, like, which you're not supposed to do, but they were doing it. They were like, this is my moment. And so like they would, rather than letting the choreographer just do what he's supposed to do, they would be like, this is what I'm wanting. And that worked to some people's advantage and didn't work to other people's advantage. And but again, it all makes for great TV. But the other element of this show that I think is really going to take people by surprise, and that's where I say the show has such an identity crisis on whether this is reality TV or like a docuseries, because I get so many mixed reviews on what is it, and I'm like, well, I don't know, like what do you want it to be? But they share stories that have been left in the shadows that no one knows, and you don't get that from TV. Right. TV creates this space to be lighthearted and positive and like funny and make you laugh. And this show definitely has those moments in that element, but on top of it, it talks about topics and things that they go through every day living in the real world that are just mind-blowing. And I really think what it's going to do for the majority of the audience who doesn't understand what it means to be a trans woman or to be a drag queen or to even be gay, it's going to open up this world of conversation to where now we can like further understand one another's perspective better, because you see these individuals just live in a house and they look like me and you, and they do what me and you does. And that's what I love. What the artistic director Michael did is this show with them living in the house, like we didn't overproduce this and make this like a Love Island style show. Like we wanted to give the audience like a fly on the wall perspective and make this real and show these individuals like not only are they pageant queens, but they are everyday real human beings like you and me. And that's what I'm most excited about.
So I want to ask you about this this trans woman versus drag queen thing, right? Because obviously there has been quite a bit of conversation and discussion about it in relationship to RuPaul's Drag Race. Is a trans woman a drag queen? All the little debates that have happened. So with your show, how did you guys address any of that? Or does it just not matter? It's just come as you are. If you're a pageant queen, you're a pageant queen.
Well, they're all pageant queens. And I think this is the misconception and why it works so much better in our show versus RuPaul's show is every trans person will tell you where they first discovered, about, a trans woman, or how they were like, oh my God, that's me. Like I'm a trans woman, is through drag, is they discovered drag and drag showed them that. So they were always from day one, before they ever even transitioned into being a woman, was a drag queen and that performer. So that side of them never died. Right. They just decided that, okay, in my everyday life, like, I want to be Joanna. Or I want to be Tiffany. And that's what they decided. And so they started off as, like normal drag queens, boys who did drag. And then they realized through and meeting other trans women who were doing this, that, this is who they are. And, I think what's so powerful with this cast is, our youngest person in the cast was in their mid 30s. So our average age is probably like 45. So, you have people who, experienced things in the 80s and the early 90s and the early
Right.
2000s and lived this. So, there was no information regarding this stuff back then, like how there is today. And they had to navigate and find who they are in a time where there was no information and no research. And I think that's what's really powerful.
And how do you feel? Because obviously, what we're seeing within the drag world is that the how do I want to put this? The sort of like the opening of the space of what it is to be LGBTQ plus, which has like expanded rapidly over the last couple of decades, and obviously that becomes a part of the fabric of every sort of previously gay space or queer space that was. But this also is reflected in the audience too, because the pageant world has always had an audience base that is gay but also straight. And so how, for you, having spent some time in the pageant world and everything, and just sort of seeing in the world of drag, what is your perspective on the changing audience for drag over time? Because one of the things we saw on, in having queens on Drag Race over 2 decades is that the audience, the fan base, got dramatically younger over time.
Oh yeah.
And so what have you been seeing, and who do you see is going to be the audience here for your Pageant Queens show on Amazon Prime?
To answer that question is we've evolved so much as a society and we understand things better, and we do owe thanks to RuPaul for that. For this was an individual who even back in the 80s, was, getting on TV, walking in runways, being in magazines, writing hit songs as a drag queen. Back when it was so foreign, when it was so taboo, when it was so no one was doing it, they were the pioneer. And then I really feel with her creating her show and just staying consistent, in the earlier years of her show, it did not have the traffic of what it has today. And now people love it and they accept it. And that we owe to our society for evolving. Like we as a society, like accept so much more in today than what we accepted back then. And so I feel that is the narrative that media hides from us. They don't want us to know that we've evolved so much and we accept so much and we embrace so much. Like they really try to divide us. And you can just look and be like, look at how many young, high school girls every Friday turn into RuPaul's Drag Race. And they love these gay men who get up there and dress like a woman, and they love it. And that's the predominance of the RuPaul audience. It's these young girls. And that's the thing. Like people say RuPaul should have more, trans women on there. And, they have had trans women on there. Sasha Colby, one of the best drag queens to have ever done it and won RuPaul's show. And I think she won by a landslide, is a trans woman. And, but RuPaul, and that's what you do as producers, and what the viewers don't understand. We as producers, we have to cater to what our audience is wanting. And when we view and see our audience is predominantly high school age, college age, teenager girls who love these little young twinkie gay boys who get in drag, that's what RuPaul's going to make their show consist of. And that's where it's really pushed out these pageant queens that are now in my show that are in their 40s that, have so much experience and so much knowledge and do pageants. And so like my audience is going to be completely different than what a RuPaul audience is. And I'm okay with that because there's space for all of it. And what it does is the importance for all of us with RuPaul, with me, in the world of producing is just to create space for conversations. It shows, hey, this is just a normal person and they do drag, just like how I like going to the gym or I like doing karate. They like doing drag. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's what RuPaul does. And that's the importance of what they do. And then so what I'm doing is I'm creating and showcasing these stories of, these trans women or these, men that are, there are people in my cast in this show that are in their 50s.
Wow.
So imagine what they experience. And they just want to live their life happily and be accepted and be supported in their art form that they love and have dedicated their life to, which is drag.
Yeah.
Well,
now, go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just going to say, and I would imagine that the show will open up for younger viewers who may only know about drag from RuPaul's Drag Race. This whole world of pageants that they would otherwise not have access to.
Right. I say the pageant element to this show is the vehicle of what gets it on TV and what makes it TV. But where this vehicle actually takes you is through a journey through other people's perspective. And you're learning of what these people lived and went through. And that was one thing that was so hard for me filming, was like listening to these, men or these trans women that I just look at to my equal, did not have an equal life as me, they had far more complicated, complex struggles just because, they were gay in the 90s,
Right.
or they were doing drag, or, I talked to my family.
It's a gay history lesson.
Yeah. And it really, and it's so important. And it's more important now than ever, because this is how we evolve and this is how we change it.
Yep. I can see that. Here's the question I have. Why do you think women love drag as much as they do? Like, why are all these straight girls and straight women so drawn to it? What is the appeal?
They're just obsessed with it. The one thing I'm going to say, and because I can relate, is when I was a young kid, I was in about 4th grade, and there was this individual that was in community theater with my mom, and I loved this person. I was obsessed with them. I was like, when I grow up, I want to be like them. And this person literally was, a gay guy in their 20s that was as flamboyant as they came, as unapologetic as they came. He wore what he wanted. He walked how he wanted. He talked like how he wanted. He was just 100% himself. And he was a drag queen. And that's where my love for drag at a young age emerged. Like, I looked at drag queens as superheroes. And as an adult, I look back at that and I'm like, it wasn't because I wanted to be a drag queen or because I was gay. It was because this person was 100% themselves in an environment that did not approve of him, that did not accept him, that did not want him. He did not care. And he walked his stuff and strutted his stuff, and he would wear painted nails and girl jeans and crop tops and had long hair. And I, as a 4th grader, loved him because he was just himself. And I think that's why women are so obsessed with RuPaul now, as we live in a world that puts so much pressure on women on how they have to be or who they should be, and how they're sexualized, or if they don't post this, they're this, or if they do this, they're this, and there's so much pressure. So drag creates this safe space for women to where, they're like, I'm watching a show of just a man just being himself and doesn't care. And it gives them that freedom to where they can get on social media. And if they want to post themselves in a bikini because they like how they look and they don't care that people, slut shame them, or if they want to, shave half their head and they want to dress alternative because that's how they feel the best. They don't care that society puts them in a box and says this. There's a lot of pressure on women that, people don't know about. And, I've even learned that through my girlfriend, who's a supermodel, just, and she struggles with body dysmorphia and, has no self-confidence at all. And she's the most beautiful human being you've ever laid your eyes on. Like, she makes me look like a Make-A-Wish patient. Like, it makes no sense why she dates me at all. I'm just waiting for like a 2-week notice. But because of all the norms and the pressure that's put on models, that she feels she has to uphold, like, she watches everything she eats, she's so cautious. And I really think that's why so many young women love that RuPaul show. You just see these men just get up on there and they don't give a damn. They say what's on their mind, they wear what they want, they act how they want. They're just unapologetically themselves. And I think that's the best reward that anyone could be in this world.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I wish more women felt that way, frankly, because I agree. There's so much pressure on them. I have a teenage daughter and I see it every day. Every day I see the the way that society has put pressure on her and the things that she feels like she has to do to try to fit in or to be good enough. And it drives me crazy. I'm like, you are good enough. I tell her all the time, the only opinion that matters is your own. And I stress that every single day with her because, I just want her to be a strong, confident woman. But it's hard.
RuPaul has an iconic line. It's probably the most iconic line from her show. And it states, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell is somebody else going to ever love you?
Yeah, right.
And it's so real. And it's the same thing with acceptance. If you can't accept yourself, how is anyone else going to accept you?
Yep.
And that's what my show teaches you. That's what I'm like dedicating my career to and creating more shows and outlets that really showcase these stories that people can relate to and people can see and realize that like it all starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, like only your opinion about you matters.
Yep.
That's right. Well, Travis, we appreciate you taking some time to talk to us about your new series on Amazon Prime. And we hope everyone checks out Pageant Queens, Our Story Behind the Crown.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time.
Of course.
Absolutely. The first 10 episodes are available now on Amazon Prime, and you can get more information by following them on Instagram, Pageant Queens series on Instagram, and you can learn more about Travis himself at travisstancil.com. That's Stancil, and he is travis.stancil on Facebook. You're listening to Derek and Romaine. Well, there you have it. The end of another perfect episode of Derek and Romaine. And if you want more great fun, go to dnrstudios.com and subscribe to get our show every day. And don't forget, for DNR Plus subscribers, you can use the DNR Cast app for iPhone, available now in the App Store.